My husband requested that my sister act as his spouse, and then he slept with her. When I confronted them, they couldn't deny it. I walked away, already forming a plan for revenge in my mind. Ryan dropped these revelations as casually as asking me to pass the salt. That evening, after a grueling 10-hour shift at the firm, I prepared pasta for dinner because Ryan claimed he was too exhausted to cook, having been home since 3 p.m. I kept eating, convinced I had misheard him when he said, "So, my 8-year high school reunion is next month, and I need Emma to come with me." I was winding spaghetti around my fork. Emma, my younger sister, was prettier than me, 12 pounds lighter and jobless for 2 years, living entirely on my support. I paid her rent, her car insurance. I even covered her 6-week hair highlighting treatment because she felt self-conscious about her dark roots growing out. I had no idea I was funding her appearance for my husband's high school reunion. After swallowing a bite of pasta, I asked, "Why would Emma be attending your reunion?" Ryan didn't look up from his phone. "Because I need her there," he said, as if that explained everything. I set my fork down and waited for him to elaborate, certain there was more to this bizarre statement. There wasn't. He continued scrolling through whatever app he preferred over talking to me. "Ryan," I began, and he glanced up with that familiar expression he wore whenever I was about to burden him with questions. "Why do you need my sister at your high school reunion instead of your wife?" He sighed, as though I were the exhausting one, as if I'd said something absurd over a plate of spaghetti. "Because I told everyone I married her. Back when we first started dating, his friends met her once at that barbecue, and they assumed she was the one I was with. I never corrected them." I stared at him. I kept staring, waiting for the moment he'd burst out laughing and admit it was a bad joke. The punchline never came. "You told your friends you married my sister," I repeated softly, just to confirm I'd heard correctly. "It's not a big deal," he said, picking up his fork again as if the conversation was over. "It was easier than explaining. And honestly, babe, you know how those guys are. They're superficial. They remember Emma being gorgeous, and they've spent 8 years believing I ended up with her. I can't show up with someone else and have to explain that actually, I married the other sister." The other sister. I had graduated top of my class in law school. I made partner at 33. The house, the cars in our driveway, every piece of furniture Ryan owned, it was all mine. And I was the other one. Because I kept my voice calm even though a cold weight settled in my chest. I stayed composed. I was reasonable, made no scenes. "So, your plan," I said, "is to bring my sister as your pretend wife to a reunion full of people I'll never meet, and I'm just supposed to be fine with that?" Ryan reached across the table and took my hand, comforting me in my confusion. He said, "It's one night," squeezing my fingers. "Nobody will ever know. These people don't matter. I'll make it up to you. I promise. We'll go out for a nice dinner afterward. Just us. Whatever restaurant you want." Those blue eyes used to make my heart race. Now I saw what should have been obvious years earlier. He thought I was pathetic. He assumed I'd accept anything for the promise of a fancy meal because I was so desperate to keep him happy. Worse, he was probably right. From the day we met, he'd trained me to settle for less. "I don't know, Ryan," I said. I watched his expression shift from pleading to irritation in less than a second. "It just feels strange. Why can't you simply tell them the truth?" He pulled his hand back. "Because I've been lying for 8 years, Sarah. What am I supposed to say now? Hey guys, funny story, I actually married her less exciting older sister who works non-stop." That's embarrassing. Less exciting. Older. Works non-stop. Each word landed like a small punch to my ribs, but I didn't react. I just absorbed it and moved on. I'd played that role in this marriage, provider, shock absorber, the other one. Ryan added, "Emma already said yes. She's looking forward to it. She said it sounds fun. I blinked. You asked her before asking me. He shrugged. I needed to confirm she was free first. Logistics. My sister had agreed to pretend to be my husband's wife. The sister I'd supported financially for 2 years, who called me crying every month about how awful her life was. Big sisters took care of that. She'd said yes without even checking with me. Ryan must have seen something on my face because he switched to his practiced concerned look. Babe, don't get upset. Emma said you should feel flattered that she's willing to help. She's doing this for us. For you, really. So I can network and maybe finally find something better than that cashier job you're always complaining about. I never complained about his cashier job. I was frustrated that he'd quit 4 cashier positions in 3 years because his bosses didn't appreciate him. I was tired of funding his life while he figured out what he wanted to be at 34. But somehow, I became the unsupportive one. I blamed myself for everything. Ryan said again, watching me closely to gauge how much more he needed to push. Nobody gets hurt, and then we never mention it again. Okay? I nodded. I let Emma play Ryan's wife at his reunion for one night. I convinced myself it was harmless, just an awkward lie he needed help covering. But Emma's quick yes kept nagging at me. How she knew the date before I did. How easily Ryan asked his wife to step aside for her sister. I decided not to sit on the sidelines. I was going to watch their rehearsals, while the wife they were replacing was right there. I offered to help them practice because I wanted to see them squirm. I wanted Emma to feel guilty, Ryan to falter, for them to realize how insane this was. I came home early from work the next day to find them going over their backstory in my living room. They barely acknowledged me when I walked in. I said, I thought I could help give you feedback on what seems believable. Ryan replied, sure, babe, and immediately turned back to Emma. I took the chair across from them and waited for the awkwardness. It never arrived. They continued as if I were just another piece of furniture in the house I paid for while they contributed nothing. To Emma, Ryan said, okay, so when they ask how we met, I'll say, I saw you across the room at a mutual friend's birthday party, and I knew right then I had to talk to you. My whole body went rigid. That was how Ryan and I met. He approached me by the window and said I looked like I was plotting my escape. I laughed, and we talked for 3 hours before he asked for my number. Wait, I said, and they looked at me like I'd interrupted something important. That's our story. That's how you and I actually met, the night everything started. Ryan shrugged. Exactly. I already know it perfectly, so I won't mess up the details. It makes it simpler. You're going to use the story of how you met your wife to pretend you married someone else? You don't see anything wrong with that? Not really. It's practical. I turned to Emma. And you're okay with this? Pretending you had the night that I actually had? The night I've told you about a dozen times because I thought my sister would care about the most important moment of my life? Emma examined her nails. I mean, it's not like you own a story, Sarah. Things like that happen to lots of people the same way. It's not that deep. It happened to me specifically, with him, your brother-in-law, and now we're borrowing it for one night. You'll get it back. She said it like I was hogging a sweater. Ryan turned back to Emma as if the matter was settled. So after the party, I texted you the next day and asked if you wanted coffee, and you said yes but made me wait 3 days before we actually went. Emma smiled at him. Because I didn't want to seem too eager. Yes, I did that. My roommate had told me 3 days was the minimum to avoid looking desperate, so I made him wait. Emma remembered this story from years ago when I shared it with her late one night, thinking I was confiding something special in my little sister. She was now reciting it to my husband as her own. I told you that story in confidence, I said to Emma, when we were close and I thought you cared about my life. Ryan sighed loudly and faced me. You know what this is really about? You're so used to being in charge at work that you can't let anyone else have anything without controlling it. Everything has to go through Sarah. Everything has to be approved by Sarah. We can't even have a conversation without you hovering like a supervisor. This isn't about control. This is about you giving away my memories. See, there you go again. Memories, story, life. He shrugged. Not everything belongs to you just because you were there for it. I was there too. It's my story as much as yours, and I can tell it however I want. Emma nodded. He has a point. You can't copyright a relationship. I changed tactics. Okay, well, what about the proposal? What will you say when people ask about that? Rooftop restaurant downtown, Ryan answered confidently. I had the ring hidden in my jacket pocket all night and was so nervous I could barely eat. Then after dessert, I got down on one knee, and the whole restaurant clapped. My engagement, my proposal, the happiest night of my life reduced to lines for my sister to memorize. That's literally what you did for me, I whispered, my voice breaking in a way I hated. That's my proposal. I cried. You cried. The waiter brought us free champagne. I called Mom from the restaurant because I couldn't wait to tell her. That memory is mine, Ryan. How can you just hand it to someone else? Ryan's face darkened. You know what, Sarah? You've always been jealous of Emma. Ever since you were kids. She got more attention. She got more dates. She got more everything. And you've never gotten over it. He gestured toward my sister. This isn't about the reunion. This is about you still competing with her after 30 years. I'm not competing with anyone. I'm asking why my husband is teaching my sister how to be me. Because she's willing to help without turning it into a federal case. He softened toward Emma. Emma backed him up by squeezing his arm. It's okay. She doesn't get it. You think this is easy for me? Ryan said, sounding wounded. I have to go back to these people and lie to their faces all night. I have to pretend my whole life turned out differently than it did. But sure, let's focus on how hard this is for you. Let's make it about Sarah's feelings like we always do. I looked at him. You created this situation. You're the one who lied for 8 years, and now I'm trying to fix it without destroying my entire social circle. But you can't give me one night. After everything I do around here, you can't give me one single night without making it weird. What exactly do you do around here? The question hung unspoken. Ryan's jaw tightened, but Emma jumped in. You come home from a tough day at work to emotional support from him. He handles things like building a resume. Not everything is about money, Sarah. I glanced around at my house, my furniture, my monthly utilities and internet bills. Ryan hadn't worked in 3 years. The last time he handled the house, he forgot to pay the water bill, and we got a shut-off notice. I've already talked to Mom about this, Emma said casually. You'd definitely overreact. She thinks it's sweet that Ryan cared enough about his friend's opinions to keep the story going. You talked to our mother about this before I even knew it was happening. I wanted advice. She understands. Why can't you? Ryan seized on it quickly. Your mother understands, your sister is willing to help, and you're the only problem. He paused and tilted his head. What does that say? I had too many answers and none that were right. Emma said, let's just keep practicing, dismissing me. We don't have much time. While I was at work all day, she echoed his line about managing the house. Ryan recounted our first anniversary, our coastal trip, my surprise lunch visit at his office, all to Emma. All my experiences, all the memories I thought belonged to us. I tried to remind him that our anniversary restaurant was French, not Italian. Ryan cut me off. He said, oh, here we go, in a mocking imitation of my voice. Actually, Ryan, that's not exactly right. Actually, Ryan, you're telling it wrong. Actually, Ryan, let me correct you in front of everyone like I always do. He looked at Emma, and they laughed at me in my own home. I was just helping you get the details right, I whispered. Emma replied, still smiling, we don't need your help. We've got everything handled. Why don't you go work? Isn't that your specialty? I told myself to calm down. My husband and sister were just nervous about the reunion. I was being oversensitive. After changing upstairs, I took 5 minutes to compose myself. I was halfway down the stairs when I heard Emma give a soft, intimate laugh, quieter than her usual one. Ryan was touching Emma's face as I paused on the landing and peered through the railing. His thumb brushed her cheekbone, and she leaned into it with half-closed eyes, their lips only inches apart. They were about to kiss. My husband and my sister, in my living room. I must have made a noise because they sprang apart like they'd been shot. Emma flushed bright red, and Ryan threw up his hands as they both started talking at once. Not what it looks like, Ryan said. We were just rehearsing, Emma added. In case anyone asks about us being affectionate. I stood on the stairs, staring down at them as they scrambled to look innocent. Right, I said quietly. Rehearsal. Relief flooded Ryan's face. Exactly. Our practice got a little carried away. It meant nothing. Emma nodded quickly. We have to make it look real. It was nothing more than that. I walked downstairs and sat in my chair, waiting to see what I would do next. That I did nothing. I let them think I believed it because I needed time to understand what was really happening before I said something irreversible. I wasn't overreacting anymore. Something was wrong, and I wasn't going to let them coordinate their stories or rehearse their excuses. Ryan first, while the fear was fresh. Then Emma, alone, without him to feed her lines. If neither cracked, I'd find someone who'd seen what I'd missed, someone who owed him nothing and had no reason to protect him. Tonight, the truth would come out. After Emma left an hour later, I followed Ryan upstairs quietly as he brushed his teeth. As if I hadn't just seen him nearly kiss my sister, as if I'd added it up once and stopped counting because the number made me nauseous. 2 years. $18,000. Plus her car insurance, her phone plan, and the random, emergency, transfers whenever she said she was struggling. Every overtime hour I'd worked to cover her expenses was an hour she got to spend with Ryan while I was at the office. I parked outside her building and took the stairs 2 at a time, even though it was well past 11 p.m. I pounded on her door hard enough that a neighbor cracked theirs open to see what the noise was. Emma, open this door right now. I heard footsteps, then her nervous voice. Sarah? What are you doing here? Open the door or I'll keep knocking until someone calls the police. The chain rattled, and the door opened a few inches, showing Emma's pale, anxious face. It's late. Can we talk tomorrow? No. I shoved the door open and she stumbled back into the apartment I'd been funding. We're talking now. You can't just break in here. I pay your rent. I can do whatever I want. I scanned the room, the furniture I'd helped her pick out, the TV I'd bought her for Christmas, the couch where she probably texted my husband while I worked to pay for it all. How long? Emma wrapped her arms around herself. How long what? Don't play dumb with me. How long have you been sleeping with Ryan? I'm not sleeping with Ryan. We told you, it was just rehearsal. Why can't you just believe me? Because I saw the way you looked when he touched your face. I saw how natural it was. Emma, that wasn't acting. That was habit. Your body did it on autopilot because you've done it so many times. You're making things up. Am I? Then explain why you know so much about my husband. Why you two have private jokes I barely hear anymore. Explain why he defends you more fiercely than he ever defends me. Emma's eyes flicked to her phone on the counter, like she was waiting for Ryan to coach her. He's not coming to rescue you, I said. I left him on the couch. It's just you and me. Sisters. Tell me the truth. There's nothing to tell. Fine. Then answer this. I stepped closer and watched her back up. What's the birthmark on his left hip look like? Emma went white. When she didn't even try to lie, I saw the truth in her eyes before she could hide it. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. You know exactly what I mean because you've seen it. You've been close enough to my husband's body to know secrets that only his wife should know. He showed me a picture once. It was a joke. Ryan has never taken a picture of that birthmark. He's embarrassed by it. He barely lets me see it. But you know what it looks like because you've been in bed with him. I let out a short, bitter laugh. How long, Emma? In the apartment I pay for, how long have you been sleeping with my husband? She said nothing. She just stood there, arms wrapped tight around herself, tears welling up in her eyes. The same crocodile tears she'd weaponized 100 times to get her way. The same performance she'd perfected since we were kids. I'm done, I said. The rent payment stopped today. The car insurance ends today. Everything I've been paying for ends today. You want my husband? Fine. But you're going to have him without my money. Sarah, wait, no. You have nowhere to go? You should have thought of that before you decided to blow up my marriage. I walked out and slammed the door so hard the walls shook. I was trembling so badly I could barely hold my keys. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, breathing deeply, trying to process what I'd just confirmed. My husband and my sister, behind my back, in my house, on my dime, and they still expected me to stay home quietly while they played happy couple at his reunion. Then it hit me. Ryan wanted my sister to pretend to be his wife? Fine. Then I would bring his brother Jackson as my date. Jackson had done everything right while Ryan drifted through life on charm and other people's generosity. Jackson had started his own company at 25 and owned his home outright. Ryan had turned down 3 job offers from him because he couldn't work for his little brother. Ryan couldn't stand being around someone who made him look bad just by existing, so the brothers barely spoke anymore. Jackson only showed up for Christmas and Thanksgiving, but he was always warm to me at family gatherings. So I decided to go through with it. I would walk into that reunion on Jackson's arm and watch Ryan's face when he saw his wife with the one person he could never measure up to. I scrolled through my phone and found Jackson's number. I stared at the screen for a long moment before typing, "Hi Jackson, it's Sarah. This is awkward, but I need a huge favor. Can we meet tomorrow? Please don't mention to Ryan that I contacted you." A minute or two later, as I started the car, my phone vibrated. "Are you okay?" he wrote. "No. That's why I need your help." The 3 dots appeared. Then, "Coffee tomorrow morning?" Jackson met me at the cafe the next day and listened without interrupting once. He didn't call me crazy afterward. Instead of defending his brother, he simply asked what I needed. It was straightforward. Ryan had spent 8 years making me feel invisible and the last few months sneaking around with my sister while I bankrolled their lives. Now I wanted him to feel paranoid, jealous, and desperate for answers he wouldn't get. Jackson was happy to help. The next morning, as I was putting on mascara, Ryan appeared in the bathroom doorway. "You're up early." He eyed my outfit and the jewelry I hadn't worn in ages. "Where are you going?" "Coffee with Jackson." His whole body tensed at the name. Jackson was the only person on earth who could make Ryan feel small. Their parents had compared them for 30 years, and Ryan lost every time. Jackson built a business while Ryan hadn't held a job. Jackson owned his house while Ryan lived in mine. Every family gathering reminded Ryan he was the family disappointment, and he'd resented his brother for it since childhood. Cancel it. I kept applying mascara. He stepped in and grabbed my phone off the counter before I could react. His number? I'll cancel for you. Give me my phone, Ryan. Or what? He held it high over his head like we were children fighting over a toy. I set the mascara down and looked at him. This man I'd given 8 years to, who couldn't even handle disagreement without a tantrum. I'm walking out of this house. I'm meeting your brother. When I get back, you'll hand me my phone and apologize for behaving like a child. I snatched my keys from the counter. Keep the phone. I'll buy a new one. He lowered his arm. Sarah, wait, Jackson was already at the cafe when I arrived. He stood when he saw me and pulled me into a long, steady hug. He smelled clean and fresh, not like Ryan's overpowering cologne that had irritated me for years. You okay? He asked as we sat. Are you upset? Your brother stole my phone because I wanted to have coffee with you. Jackson's jaw tightened. That sounds like Ryan. Does it? Because I thought for 8 years that I was married to a reasonable adult. Turns out I married a toddler who throws tantrums when he doesn't get his way. He's always been like that. He just hides it well at first. Jackson slid a coffee across the table. I ordered your usual. Hope that's okay. How do you know my usual? You've ordered the same thing at every family gathering for 5 years. Oat milk vanilla latte, extra shot. He shrugged. I notice things. After 8 years of marriage, Ryan still asked what I wanted at Starbucks, like the information refused to stick. Jackson listened to everything, the reunion lie, the stolen proposal story, the almost kiss on the couch, the birthmark confession, Ryan gaslighting me for months while sleeping with my sister. When I finished, my coffee was cold and my voice was hoarse. I want him to feel what I felt, I said. Paranoid. Jealous. Furious. Wondering what's going on. So I need you to take me to dinner. Text me when he's around. Make him wonder. Jackson hesitated, his thumb tracing slow circles on the back of my hand. Then he said, I'm in. Whatever you need. Ryan was sitting in the dark living room like a brooding villain when I got home 3 hours later. 3 hours, he said flatly. 3 hours gone. We had a lot to talk about. About what? About me? How awful I am. Not everything revolves around you, Ryan. I held out my hand. Phone. He pulled it from his pocket and tossed it at me. I caught it against my chest. Your precious phone. Check the messages. I'm sure Jackson's been blowing it up like a pathetic simp. The only pathetic person in this room is you. I walked past him toward the stairs. I'm taking a shower. Try not to have a meltdown while I'm gone. Our first dinner with Jackson was that Friday. I wore the black dress Ryan once said was too dressy for a weeknight, and did my hair the way I used to before I stopped trying. When I came downstairs, Ryan jumped up so fast his chair toppled. No. Absolutely not. Yes. Absolutely yes. You're not walking out of this house looking like that to meet my brother. Watch me. He grabbed my arm hard enough that I knew there would be marks tomorrow. I said no. And I said yes. Let go of me. Make me. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then up at his face, and screamed as loud as I could, loud enough that the neighbors might hear. He released me instantly. What the hell is wrong with you? Nothing. I just wanted to test how fast you'd let go if someone else might hear. I smoothed my dress. Now you know. And now I know how to handle you. Jackson's headlights flashed through the window. I walked out without looking back. Dinner was incredible. Jackson asked about my work and actually listened. He remembered details from years ago that Ryan had never bothered to learn. He looked at me. Like I was worth looking at. Same time next Friday, he asked when he dropped me off. Next Friday. The second dinner was even better. We talked about everything and nothing until he kissed my cheek, and I felt the warmth of it for hours. The third dinner changed everything. I expected Ryan to be pacing or sulking or breaking things when I got home just after midnight. Instead, I walked in to find him on the couch with Emma curled up against him. Her shoes were off, her head on his shoulder, like it was the most natural thing in the world. They were watching a movie. "Oh, hey," Ryan said, barely glancing at me. "How was your date?" I stood frozen in the doorway, trying to process the scene. Why is she here? Emma? She came over to keep me company since my wife is never around anymore. Emma looked up at me with a smug little smile that made me want to cross the room and wipe it off her face. "You don't mind, do you?" she asked sweetly. Ryan was lonely. "I figured someone should keep him company since you're always out with Jackson." "Get out of my house." "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Get out." Emma laughed. "You can't kick me out. Ryan lives here too." "No, he doesn't own it. His name isn't on the deed. His name isn't on the mortgage. His name isn't on anything, because he hasn't worked in 3 years." I dropped my purse on the table. "I'll say it one more time. Get out of my house." Finally Ryan stood. "Don't talk to her like that." "Like what? Like she's the woman sleeping with my husband?" "Nobody is sleeping with anybody." He stepped between Emma and me, almost protectively. "We're just friends. You and Jackson are friends, right?" The hypocrisy was so thick I could taste it. "You're really doing this now? After everything you said about Jackson, after grabbing my arm, screaming at me, calling me desperate, that was different." "How? How is this different?" "Because I'm not trying to hurt you." He stepped closer. "I've been doing everything I can to protect our marriage. You're the one running around with my brother to humiliate me." "Protecting our marriage?" I laughed. "By rehearsing your fake marriage to my sister using our actual proposal story? By almost kissing her on our couch?" Emma stood up from the couch. "That's not what happened." "Really?" "I saw it, Emma. I saw the way he leaned into you like he couldn't help himself. Like you were magnets. You're being dramatic. It was just practice." "Practice for what?" "Last I checked, couples only almost kiss during practice, if they actually want to. Maybe if you'd paid a little more attention to your husband, he wouldn't need."
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a twist. Stay tuned to Reddit Tales Times for your daily dose of drama, laughs, and unbelievable stories.